So hi, on the Grind podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
Holden from Combat.
All right, some questions to say about the upcoming album, Stay Golden. So congrats on that. By the way, how do you feel about the response, the announcement so far?
It's been a lot better than I thought it ever would be. People like it a lot. I thought that there'd be a good amount of people who would be into it, but it's been a lot bigger than I thought it would ever be.
That's good.
Well deserved. Yeah, it's fucking incredible. I loved it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the hype behind this, I've been seeing a lot of people talking about it. And when I spoke to Alex on Friday and he mentioned they were doing PR for you, I was like, you gotta send that over to me. We gotta make that happen. So stoked to be chatting with you, stoked to see the success of the record, and it fucking rocks.
Damn right.
Thanks.
Of course.
Very, very kind.
Hell yeah.
So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
For a while, it was a reference to The Outsiders, but it was also misquoted. I think that the actual line is "Stay Gold" in The Outsiders that they say, and that's not it. I wouldn't say that there's really, really deep meaning behind it. I just wrote that first song, Stay Golden, and then I thought, okay, well, I'm probably going to make an album called this. Initially, I wanted to make an album where all of the merchandise and all the iconography and the vinyl and the cassettes were all gold. But I don't like the color gold on things. And so we abandoned that after a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, the name kind of stuck, and then a lot of the writing of the album was trying to come up with what that actually means. And the album cover is a movie theater that's right by my house, called the Senator Theater in Baltimore. That's just a really good theater, and I knew I wanted to do something in Baltimore.
So it's just a nice picture, paying homage.
It's a nice, cool looking building.
Yeah. Paying homage to where you're from. I'm
and
here for it.
It's something I see like every single day.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Sounds good.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for the album?
I wrote the riff for Stay Golden in my freshman year of college in my dorm room at like 3 a.m. And then I think later that night or the day after, I just went and wrote the song. And then I thought, cool, I think I'm going to write an album about this, and I think this will be the first song. And so from that point to early summer, late spring of 2023, I was continually writing that album, just here and there. The Combat writing process is basically that I showed the band a full-fledged demo of the whole song with drums and vocals and backups and auxiliary stuff. And then we just practice it a bunch. And we figure out like live things and what we want to add after playing the songs a gazillion times. And yeah, kind of just did that for about a year and a half until we got to where we were. There was a lot of stuff that was like, oh, I want to do a song that does this, or like, oh, I have this one part of a song that I want to put in something, or oh, I want to make 2 really, really long songs halfway in the album and at the end of the album, or like having it resolve back into itself and stuff like that. But yeah, it was very, very much just me on my computer.
Gotcha.
In silence.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was the writing process. And then we did to like right before we went into the studio, we did like a 2-week or so long summer tour in summer of 2023, where we in certain cities where we knew that people probably didn't know who we were. We could just play exclusively unreleased songs and not feel terrible about it. And that gave us like a really good opportunity to figure out like what we liked and didn't like about live things, and become more comfortable with the songs before we went and recorded them.
That's good. Hell yeah.
Makes sense. All right. So what song off the album took longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
I think the one that took very technically the longest to write would be Read Ending Explain Part 1. Um, because there are parts in that song that I had come up with to put in a song for like a year leading up to it. Um, that I knew I wanted to put into something, but I didn't know where it would fit.
Mhm.
And then when I went to start doing those, I'm like, oh wait, no, I can take this part and put this part on top of it and then do all this and that. And then so technically that one probably took the longest because it was just like a bunch of ideas I had before I'd like really conceptualized what the song would be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But the one that I actually spent the longest time uh consciously writing was Weird Ending 2, which probably took me a couple of months to like figure out what I actually wanted to do with that song. I knew what I wanted it to be and I knew what I wanted to achieve with it, but it took a lot of refining to actually pull off and realize those ideas.
Mm.
My favorite song of the album is probably that or Epic Season Finale, which is the second to last song.
Nice.
I'm really happy with those.
Hell yeah.
Wonderful.
I'm curious how you guys got connected with Ryland to work on the record with him as the producer, because that's what ultimately drew me to the record, because we're big fans of Gami, and we've had Ryland on here a bunch, so I'm curious how you guys got connected.
Yeah, for sure. So Origami Angel were a band I was really, really big into, and that a lot of my friends, being in like Baltimore and the DMV, a lot of them grew up with Gami being like a local band
Mm.
that ended up just like hitting it and becoming way bigger than they ever could have, imagined. And I never got to experience that. So I had a bunch of my friends being like, "Oh yeah, I saw the Somewhere City release show in a basement to 100 kids or something like that." Or like, "Yeah, I played a bunch of shows. Is that band Origami Angel? They're like a local band, right?" Uh, and so I kind of totally missed that boat. So I was just a big fan of that band.
Mhm.
And one of our friends who used to play shows with Ryland back in the day would like post about us on her Instagram story and just like talk about us on social media every now and then. And we were playing a show in Virginia with retrospectively a pretty crazy lineup, which was it was us, Waveform from Connecticut, who are on what are they on? I think they're on Run for Cover Records. And then it was Feeble Little Horse.
Mm.
Before like Feeble are like a huge, huge band now, and they weren't quite at that point yet. And that was a really awesome show. But one of us just realized that Ryland came to this show. And we were like pretty freaking out about it because we're like, we've never met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. And we thought that he was there for the show and that we're just like, oh, cool, we get to play in front of him. But it turns out he came to see us
Oh, wow.
because he had seen some of his friends posting about us. And so we talked for like a really little bit. And then he just started like shouting us out on Instagram every now and then when people are like, what bands are you into right now? And then eventually I got a message or an email asking if we would play with Origami Angel for the Brightest Days release show, or one of the Brightest Days release shows.
Mhm.
And so then we played that. We talked there, exchanged phone numbers, and then at some point, um, early last year, I texted him and asked if he would be down to help produce the record, and he was really, really excited to.
That's fucking
That is
awesome.
such a good little lore. That's so
Yeah. So
cute.
it's just the case of, fans of each other's bands just connecting over the love of each other's music, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
It's really cool.
There is no industry bullshit in that story. That's just homies being
Yeah.
homies.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love
Yeah,
it.
no, not at all. It's very, very cool. And like even getting on that Feeble Little Horse show we got on because of my friend Ray Brown, who runs a booking thing in DC, but also plays in the band Snail Mail, uh, who grew up in the town that I went to high school. And I briefly worked with their bassist and showed him like my high school noise band. And then their bassist and Ray Brown started talking about me and like putting me onto a bunch of shows just from just like hanging out and meeting people and not really knowing who they were.
Mhm.
And so I had, and that was a band I was really, really obsessed with. So it was very cool having like people you really look up to putting you onto a show, and then somebody you really look up to seeing that show, and then playing with those people, and it was just very cool. Felt very organic and awesome.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome. I love that.
Mhm.
So how'd the track list for the album come about? Did you write the opener be the opener, close be a closer, shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
Yeah, so I started with Stay Golden, and I was trying to, as best as I could, to write it sequentially, like with the most kind of meaning to each song contextually.
Mhm.
So right after that, I wrote Faith, which is the second track. And then uh, at that point, I just started writing songs. And it wasn't until like I had probably 6 out of the 12 kind of 14 tracks that I started very deliberately being like, okay, well, this song goes here and the song
Mhm.
goes here. And now I'm going to write the centerpiece, and now I'm going to write the last song.
Okay.
Um, and so it was kind of all over the place, but I sort of approached it as like, all right, I need to write 6 punk rock songs, I need to write 2 long songs, and then 4 songs. Um, and the 3 that were very deliberately written with explicit track list intentions later on were Weird Ending 1, Weird Ending 2, and then I thought the album was done, but I thought that the A side felt really, really rushed.
Mhm.
And so the last song I wrote was Put Me in Coach to go on the A side to kind of fill it out a little bit.
Gotcha.
Uh,
So yeah,
and that's what I looked at.
you kind of had your roadmap, but it wasn't like every single song had its
Mhm.
intention. You were obviously just
Yeah,
writing songs to be on the record, but you had
of
your
course.
points on the album where things had to be. Gotcha.
I had point A, point B, and point C, and I just had
Yeah.
to figure out how to bridge that gap.
Gotcha. Makes
Makes
sense.
sense. Yeah. So would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
I was coming out of, or not coming out of, but kind of easing my way out of like a local scene
Mhm.
that was just kind of not, it was very, very active coming out of 2021 when people could play shows all the time.
Mhm.
And then we started having shows all the time and things started falling into equilibrium. And then every show wasn't super packed. Uh, and then and our scene was very, very diverse. It was
Mhm.
like every show was like a gazillion different genres.
Mhm.
Uh, but because of that, kind of started to feel like there were pretty big differences between everybody and where everybody's headspace was at.
Mhm.
Uh, and so a lot of the album came out of like disillusion with uh, a bunch of kids starting punk bands
Mhm.
and there being like a really big young punk scene. Uh, but I totally grew up as like a punk rock kid who was like beyond being into the music. Like I spent lots of high school just reading Wikipedia articles for
Yep.
hardcore bands that I didn't need to be doing that for.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just like, whoa, I'm totally super, super, super into this. And now there's a bunch of people who are also super into it, but like I feel like we're into it for a different reason. And this kind of doesn't feel like punk, it feels like partying.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
feels like partying in leather jackets. It
Mhm.
doesn't feel like punk rock ethos.
Mhm.
Uh, but we at the same time in like trying to engage with that scene were like very much the outsiders, um, and didn't really fit in. But I was like, I feel like I should know what's going on. I feel like I know my way around punk rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so a lot of it was that.
Mhm.
A lot of it was also uh, being in college and trying to be in a band. And at the same time, I started school and started living on campus when I was 17. And so I like felt like I wasn't really an adult, but I also was going on tour all the time and going out of state constantly and coming
Hmm.
back to my dorm room at like 4 in the morning after playing shows. And uh, I didn't really know where I was supposed to be, and I felt like there was a certain way that I was supposed to be living that I didn't quite understand. Uh, and watching all the bands around me, it felt like I was supposed to be doing what they were doing, but I didn't like what they were doing. Um, and yeah, trying to come to terms with how I should be acting as part of DIY scene, how other people should be acting, if what they're doing is cool, if what I'm doing is cool, whether or not I should have started a band in the first place, um, like whether it was worth kind of the uh, social developmental stunting of not going to parties in high school and instead staying home and dubbing cassette tapes, like whether or not all that was cool.
Yeah.
But I think I ultimately determined that it was.
Yeah. I relate heavily to that because I'm college age now, and instead of going out and doing what normal college kids do, I sit on Zoom and talk to bands all day and night for interviews, and also feel the same way about like fitting into the local scene, because that's kind of how the podcast started. And then it was like, do we really have a place here, and not knowing if we should pull out or continue. So I relate heavily to everything that you said as not a musician.
I know your game well. I'm currently on my first gap semester ever, so that I can go on this tour coming up. And I spent a lot of college when people were like, "So what do you do?" I'm kind of like honestly embarrassed to be like, "Yeah, I play in a band." So I'll be like, "Oh, play music. I hang out with my friends. I don't know."
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome,
Yeah.
though.
People are like,
but yeah, I try to like not talk about being in a band with like uh classmates, because it's like a whole like world that I just don't want to get into. But then
yeah,
it's like, oh, but I don't do nothing,
yeah,
you
because
know?
their concept of being in a band is like, so you're a rock star, but it's like,
Well, it's either so you. I think honestly, uh, to very few people, it's the rock star thing, and to a lot of people, it's like, oh, okay, so you're playing Sweet Carolina in a bar,
yeah, true.
and so
Right.
it's like, and then I'm like, no, I'm not playing Sweet Carolina in a bar. They're like, okay, so you're in a Queen cover band that's like pretty big, and I'm like, no, and then they're like, oh, well, that's crazy. My friend's in a band. You guys should meet, and it's
Yeah.
it's like, no, we're in a band in a different way.
No,
Exactly.
I get that so heavily because I only went to 2 years worth of college. I went to a community college, got my associates, and I was like, I'm good. I didn't want to go to college. I did my 2 years, so I have a college degree, and I moved on. So I've been doing this. I'm also an artist manager, so I'm very much in the music industry. So I tell people what I do, and it's kind of the same thing you get. It's either, oh, my whoever has a band, you should totally talk to them and work with them, or you should interview them. And I'm like, I don't want to do either of those things. So it's like trying to navigate social situations when you are so ingrained like in music, and music so in your DNA, and you're surrounded by people that aren't so into music as you are, because these subgenres we are in it's so about being in the music. It's it's something I battle with every fucking day.
And it's not worth getting into, because it's like kind of a dick move to be like, well, actually,
I don't want to.
yeah. So I just don't bring it up.
Yeah,
fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. I keep making the mistake of bringing it up.
yeah.
You'll learn.
It's like, it's very cool. Like, it admittedly is very cool
to the right people.
But yeah, to the right people.
Yeah.
So then when I don't talk about it, I'm like, ooh, nobody knows.
Yeah. I'm living this double life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get it. So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should you do in the car with friends and talk with headphones on? Is workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
I haven't thought about that. I don't know. It's a chillin' album. I guess it would probably be pretty good for workouts. The beginning is pretty fast. and it slows down. Oh, that'd be pretty cool. Don't really need to use headphones. Maybe you can. Uh, we did it in a big old studio, so I like to think there's lots of fidelity. Uh, you can listen to it in your car. I don't know. I'm not like I'm somebody who I think I know a lot about audio, but I'm not like an audiophile or like an audio nerd.
Hmm.
Uh, I just think if it makes you happy to listen to, you should listen to it. And if it doesn't, you should turn it off.
All right.
There you go.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
straightforward. All right. And this one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Fast,
Hmm.
thematic
Hmm.
guitars.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
guitars
There's
is a
certainly
question mark.
guitars. The
Heavy
guitars
question
has
mark.
a ellipses at the end. It's a dot dot dot.
Okay.
Okay, okay,
Gotcha.
okay.
Uh-huh.
All
Yeah,
right.
Uh-huh.
yeah. I fuck with it.
So in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
Um, no, I honestly wrote it just for me. Um, they're kind of my own uh thoughts and feelings, mostly about myself.
Mhm.
And I kind of have always been in a sort of social predicament where I'm like, yeah, I think I screwed up my life in a really, really specific way
Mhm.
that I can't really relate to people about. Um,
Mhm.
and so I don't know, but people seem to be resonating with it a lot, which is really, really cool. Um, Happiness, maybe. I like music makes me happy,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Uh, whichever emotion you are inclined to feel.
Hmm.
All right. Hell
Damn
yeah.
right. All right. And are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of the album, positive or negative?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Um, we had 4 days to record this album, uh,
Whoa.
and it was also a really, really stressful time in my life because there's just like a bunch of stuff going on
Hmm.
uh, that I didn't expect would happen right before we went to do it.
Yeah.
And so also didn't have a lot of money, and I also didn't think a label would be picking it up.
Hmm.
And so I was like, all right, we have to go in and make the best thing we possibly can, uh, so that maybe somebody picks it up. If nobody picks it up, then we can self-release it and have it be the coolest thing ever. Um, and we only have 4 days to track all the instruments. Um, and so the very last day we had, um, we were recording lead guitars for Weird Al Explained Part 2, um, until 2 hours after we had to be out of the studio.
God damn.
And
Wow.
the owner of the studio was just like waiting for us to be done. And we're
Pressure. Oh
just
my
like,
God.
yeah, and I this at this point, it wasn't even me recording guitars, and that is a big struggle for me because I'm very much like wanting to be in control of everything,
Hmm.
and want if something goes wrong for it to be my fault so that nobody else feels bad,
Mhm.
Hmm.
because it's like ultimately like my band. Uh, and yeah, that they it was our lead guitarist who was recording, and he was doing a really good job, but it was like, oh my God, I'm sure he feels so guilty right now, and this is so stressful. And oh, but if I went in there, maybe because it's my song, I could like do something quicker, but he's better. And uh I don't yeah,
Yeah.
it was ridiculously stressful. And then there was I spent like a month at Ryland's, not like all at once, but every now and then over the course of probably like 2 months, recording vocals at Ryland's house. Um, and then that was super stressful because I was like, oh man, we have to get this done so that we can get it mixed,
Hmm.
so that we can see what a label thinks. If not, whatever, I just want to be able to have it out by the summer. And
Hmm.
um, it only narrowly came out during the summer, by the way. Like
Mhm.
it had to get pushed back a good bit, and like it was a very big time crunch. That was the biggest thing. And I also didn't have an album cover for a really, really long time. I basically delivered an album cover like a week before I absolutely had to, or else it wouldn't come out when I wanted it to.
Goddamn.
Damn.
And so yeah.
Quite the
Under the
time crunch.
wire.
But the thing that I can't wrap my head around is, like, obviously you had over the course of 2 months to do the vocal takes with Ryland, but 4 days in the studio to do all the instruments on all of the songs, and, you know, 2 of the songs totaling out to like 16 minutes respectfully is wild.
Yeah. And also, so those songs change tempo a lot, and we were recording to a click track, and modulating that is really difficult, and programming that is really difficult. And there was like at some point like 2 hours in the studio where Ryland and Alex from the band Snail Mail, who was engineering, was like, what is going on with like our recording interface? Like some like weird tempo thing was happening, and that was like all of us were just sitting there being like, oh, there's 4 hours left in the day and we just spent 2 of them, and it's not really in our controls, and it's not really their fault. We're just losing a bunch of time right now. And I don't, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was wild. And we didn't even do it entirely live. It was like myself playing guitar in a room with our drummer Isabella. And the guitar wasn't even recorded. The guitar was just so that we could be in the room together playing the song, so that like the energy was there. And we otherwise just like did it track by track. We just kind of knocked it all out very, very fast.
Yeah.
As fast as we could.
God damn, that's wild.
Yeah.
So for this question, I want you to picture you're on tour. You had a gas station for a rest stop. What was your snack of choice?
Oh, it is probably purple Doritos, and a Celsius or a Liquid Death.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, I really like drinking water, and I really want a Liquid Death brand deal. I just really like cracking open cans, but I don't like drinking water makes me feel like I'm being good. But I like the consumerism of paying for a tall boy and opening a can. But then I'm like, oh, it's like nice cold water.
It's water. Yeah.
So those are probably my go-tos. Or for it, I will say my Bucky's answer is a Rice Krispie Fruity Pebbles and a really, really big Diet Coke.
All right.
Solid.
Hell yeah.
Solid. And on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be and why?
It'd probably be like dim sum or Korean barbecue or something like that. Probably dim sum. I think we do a lot of different things. And we have the capability to do a lot of different things in similar ways, or a lot of similar things in different ways. And there's so much of it. And we're kind of always constantly doing things in the way that there's lots of different things you can do with dumplings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right. Hell yeah.
Solid.
And there's also all you can eat dim sum.
True.
Yeah.
Hell
True.
yeah. And for the last couple questions, we're going to shift completely away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
There's a place by my house that has chicken tikka masala pizza. It bangs.
That sounds great.
Maybe that or pho.
Fuck with pho.
And I'd probably have like a diet Dr. Pepper cream soda or something.
Nice.
Ooh, solid.
Or also just a ton of water.
There you
Fuck
go.
with water too.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. And if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
A lot of the fictional worlds I like, I wouldn't ever live there because it's so scary there.
Yeah, that's fair.
I live in Somewhere City. That place sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Wholeheartedly agree. All right. And I've asked the last question. Every single person I've spoken to have said that is the most important question. What's your favorite color?
Green.
Specific shade of green.
I like a dark green. No,
Nice.
not too bright. Like a comfy green.
Hmm.
That's good.
Fuck yeah.
All right. So as I said, that's all the questions you have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Um, we run a all ages, all sober, all volunteer run DIY space in Baltimore called the Undercroft. If you play in a touring band or you want to do something, or you live in Baltimore and you want to get involved, or you want to hang out with us, we're there all the time. Uh, Reach out to us. We're on Instagram and we have a booking email. I answer all the emails, or at least most of them. Uh, we also play in a bunch of bands. One's called Virtua. It's like electronic, very electronic, very cool dance, almost EDM, shoegaze. We also play in a noise rock band called Dakota Condition that just released an album a week ago. We also play in a band called Haynes Point. We also play in a band called Cosmeet. All of them, most of them do not have me in it, and all those bands are very, very good.
Mhm.
So yeah, go listen to music or play guitar. It's really cool.
Hell yeah. All right. Well,
Damn
thank you.
right.
Sal has been Holden from Combat, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.